The starship Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its engines humming softly as it orbited the distant planet of Zorath. Captain Elias Grant stood on the observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back as he stared out at the swirling blue and green atmosphere below. Zorath was a beautiful world, but it was also one shrouded in mystery. The planet was home to the Zorathians, a reclusive alien species known for their advanced technology and strict isolationist policies. Elias had been sent on a diplomatic mission to establish trade relations, but so far, the Zorathians had been less than welcoming. "Captain," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Mara Chen, his second in command. "We've received a transmission from the surface. It's unusual." Elias turned, raising an eyebrow. "Unusual how?" Mara hesitated, her brow furrowing. "It's a direct plea for help. From someone claiming to be a Zorathian princess. She's asking for asylum. And she specifically requested to speak with you." Elias frowned. A Zorathian princess, asking for help from a human, didn't make sense. The Zorathians had always been fiercely independent, and their royal family was rumored to be even more so. But if this was genuine, it could be the breakthrough they needed. "Patch her through," he ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, and Elias found himself staring at a figure unlike any he had ever seen. The Zorathian princess was ethereal, her skin a shimmering silver with faint bioluminescent patterns that pulsed softly in the dim light. Her eyes were large and almond-shaped, glowing a deep violet, and her hair flowed like liquid starlight. She was dressed in intricate robes that seemed to shift and change color with her movements, but her expression was one of desperation. "Captain Grant," she said, her voice melodic but strained. "I am Princess Lyrin of the Zorathian royal house. I beg you, please hear my plea." Elias straightened, his military training kicking in. "Princess Lyrin, I'm listening. What is it you need?" She hesitated, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. I cannot stay here any longer. My people, they have betrayed me. My own family seeks to use me as a pawn in their political games. They wish to marry me off to a warlord from a neighboring system, a cruel and ruthless man who will enslave me and use my royal blood to legitimize his rule. I cannot allow this to happen." Elias frowned. "I'm sorry to hear that, Princess, but why come to us? The Zorathians have never been fond of outsiders. Surely there are others among your own people who could help you." Lyrin shook her head, her luminescent tears glistening as they fell. "There is no one. The royal court is corrupt, and those who might have helped me have either been silenced or are too afraid to act. You are my only hope. I have heard of humans, of your sense of honor and your willingness to help those in need. Please, Captain Grant, I beg you. Take me with you. Claim me as your own, so that I may escape this fate." Elias blinked, taken aback. "Claim you as my own? Princess, I'm not sure what you mean." Lyrin stepped closer to the holographic display, her violet eyes pleading. "In Zorathian culture, if a being of higher status claims ownership of another, it is binding. If you declare me as your property, my family will have no choice but to relinquish their control over me. It is the only way I can escape." Elias felt a knot form in his stomach. The idea of claiming ownership over another person, especially a princess, went against everything he believed in. But the desperation in Lyrin's eyes was undeniable. She was trapped, and she saw him as her only way out. "Princess," he said carefully, "I understand your situation, but this is highly irregular. I need to consult with my crew and consider the implications. I can't make a decision like this lightly." Lyrin's shoulders slumped, and she nodded. I understand. But please, Captain, do not take too long. Time is running out. The transmission ended, and Elias turned to Mara, who had been listening silently. What do you think? He asked. Mara crossed her arms, her expression thoughtful. It's a risky move. If we interfere in Zorathian politics, it could backfire spectacularly. But if what she says is true, we could be saving her from a terrible fate. And it might even open the door to better relations with the Zorathians. Elias sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't like the idea of claiming ownership over someone. It feels wrong. I get that, Mara said. But sometimes you have to play by the rules of the culture you're dealing with. If this is the only way to help her, then maybe it's worth it. Elias nodded slowly. All right. Let's bring her aboard. But we'll need to be careful. If this is some kind of trap, we could be walking right into it. The shuttle descended through Zorath's atmosphere, its engines roaring as it approached the coordinates Lyrin had provided. The landing site was a secluded clearing in a dense forest, far from any major settlements. As the shuttle touched down, Elias and a small security team stepped out, weapons at the ready. Lyrin emerged from the shadows, her silver skin glowing faintly in the moonlight. She was alone, her robes torn and dirty, as if she had been running for days. When she saw Elias, she rushed forward, dropping to her knees before him. Captain Grant, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Elias knelt down, gently taking her hands and helping her to her feet. You don't have to kneel, Princess. We're here to help you. Lyrin looked up at him, her violet eyes filled with gratitude. You are my savior, Captain. I will never forget this. Elias nodded, though he still felt uneasy about the situation. Let's get you aboard the ship. We can figure out the rest later. As they boarded the shuttle, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He scanned the tree-line but saw nothing. Still, he couldn't shake the sense of foreboding that settled over him. Back aboard the Eclipse, Lyrin was given a private quarters and medical attention. Elias spent the next few hours reviewing the situation with his senior staff. The consensus was clear. Helping Lyrin was the right thing to do, but they needed to tread carefully. The next day, Elias visited Lyrin in her quarters. She was sitting by the window, staring out at the stars, her expression distant. How are you holding up? He asked. Lyrin turned to him, forcing a small smile. Better. But I fear what will happen if my family discovers where I am. They will stop at nothing to retrieve me. Elias sat down across from her, his expression serious. Princess, I need to ask you something. Are you sure about this? About me claiming ownership of you? It's a big decision, and once it's done, there's no going back. Lyrin nodded, her eyes filled with determination. I am sure, Captain. It is the only way. I trust you. Elias took a deep breath, then nodded. All right. Then I'll do it. But I want you to know that this doesn't mean I see you as property. You're a person and you deserve to be free. Lyrin's eyes softened and she reached out, placing her hand on his. Thank you, Captain. You are a good man. The ceremony was simple, conducted in the ship's observation deck. Lyrin stood before Elias, her head bowed as he recited the Zorathian words she had taught him. When he finished, there was a moment of silence, and then Lyrin looked up, her eyes shining with relief.